Welcome to the Fermented Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Anna, and on this channel I'm sharing our journey of learning how to turn our home into a homestead. Today we're going to be picking up where we left off yesterday. We're going to check on our dehydrating rice as well as our beef broth, and so let's do it. It is now 12:48 and this has been going fairly nonstop. I did check on it earlier and I meant to bring you guys along to share with you guys what it looked like, but I just lost track of time, started editing, all that kind of fun stuff. So you can see, like, it's kind of, some of this is very dry. Ooh, a lot of this. When I checked on this earlier, the tray up here that I didn't pack very tightly, this was the first one that I did. This one was basically done. But the rest of them had clumps and chunks like this one. It wasn't finished when I checked on it this morning. I checked on it before I even had coffee. And then the day got away from me. So I knew it wasn't ready. And so I put it back in here. Let's see if we have any of these. Usually more towards the bottom if you're new to dehydrating. Usually the ones that are, the trays that are towards the bottom tend, at least in this one, tend to be less, they take longer than the ones at the very, very top. It's fairly even, except like the top two trays go super quick. That's been my experience with the Excalibur. The other ones, like the Nesco dehydrator, those ones are super janky. You have to like rotate them constantly. And I don't have experience with any of the other ones, so I can't speak to those, but these two I can. See this one? You can see it's a little, well, maybe you can't see, but if you could see the color comparison, this is much darker. And I think this was a patch that just wasn't done as quick as the rest, but it looks like these are done. I think these, oh no, see? Can you see that? It's not done. Okay, so we'll pull the ones that are finished and let these ones cool, and then I'll just kind of sort through the rest of these and put them back to dehydrate if they're not finished. On a sheet of parchment just for ease of use here. And this one is definitely done. Absolutely. 100%. But you don't want to put it in, you don't want to put it into the jars warm like this. You want to make sure to let it cool, otherwise it can pull much more moisture in from the atmosphere than it would have otherwise. This guy here. Definitely done through. Okay, most of these, I thought these would all be undercooked because this one wasn't pretty undercooked, but that's not the case here. I don't think it'll take terribly long to get this stuff to really dehydrate. So we'll go ahead and just kind of flip this around. This spot right here seems to be the worst. So we'll go ahead and put this back, big chunks out, because they're done. There's no point in doing that. And we'll put the rest of these back in the dehydrator. It might just be that one little spot that needs a little bit more attention. Okay. Last tray. So I'll see you back here in a couple minutes. We'll jar these up, and I'm gonna run the rest of this for another hour or so. Okay. So we're just going to empty these trays onto the parchment paper. That will help us be able to kind of siphon it into the jar. You can use it if you have like one of those big metal bowls. You can use that. I have it, but I'm just giving this a try. Somebody had suggested it in a previous video, so figured I'd give it a try, see how it works. Seems like it worked just fine. Then we started out with, I figured we started out with 8 cups of rice, so we're likely to get at least kind of close to that. So we use a half-gallon jar here. Let's get some of these big pieces out of the way. kind of see that there's some gaps and stuff in here, but I'm not gonna squish it down too terribly much because I don't want to break up the rice. I don't know how fragile this is. We're doing this for the first time. All right, so we got our rice all jarred up, and now we're gonna put a little dry pack in here, or a couple dry packs because it's a half-gallon jar. Put a lid on it and put it into storage. And then coming up here, probably within the next couple of days, I'm gonna come up with a recipe or two, make it using this so that we can see how much we like it. Now let's go ahead and check on our broth. I don't know if you can tell, but there is a massively thick, obviously a massively thick layer of fat on here. And it looks like the temperature, it's really hard to regulate the temperature with a giant vat of broth. So you just do the best you can. At least it's difficult in my experience. I don't know about y'all's, but in my experience, I struggle. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna skim off the fat from the top here, so that if you leave it in the broth for too long, you can break down the fat and make it not an appetizing fat to be able to use in something else. So we're gonna pull this off here. In a ladle, and I just kind of skim the top. Just barely push it in, so then whatever's on the top is what's going to go into the pan. Or into the ladle, pardon me. Don't worry about perfection. It's getting real hot. One thing I want to show you that I like to do with this is I take a turkey baster. Let me show you why. You can see you see that layer under there? Just the top kind of off-white part is actually fat. The rest of this is broth. So you can actually skim that off. Well, you can suck it out of the bottom and return it to the pot with a turkey baster. Don't do it like that. I don't know if you saw that, but that sucked. I don't know why I did that like that. See? So we're gonna try and skim off a bit more fat before we return it to its cooking. Because it can give it kind of a, I don't know, just like a rancid kind of flavor if you leave it in there too long. And this fat is divine, especially because a lot of it is bone broth or bone marrow. So this stuff is phenomenally healthy, good for you, amazing goodness. And you don't want to leave it to ruin or to scorch by leaving it in here too long. I think we've kind of reached this ladle. That's pointless. Okay, so we got a pretty fair amount of the broth out of here. The fat. So let's go ahead and skim off the broth from under here that we collected. So that's all we're gonna do for this moment. We're gonna get this back up to a simmer. It's much better if you have a turkey roaster or something along those lines, some kind of like a plug-in, like electric, can regulate the heat kind of things. It works a lot better. I had one. I still have one. However, I went to use it to put this broth in last night, and the whole bottom, I don't know, something in the move or something like that, the inside coating of it had been rusted away, and I'm not sure how that happened. I didn't put it into storage wet. I think the humidity or something like that maybe pulled up and it just corroded it to where there's no coating on there, and I just don't feel comfortable using it with whatever I think it's aluminum is underneath it. So I decided to opt for this. We're gonna pick this back up and we're gonna start to do today's project, which is actually canning up caramelized onions, which is a complete no-no. It is not an approved recipe. Don't see. That was not intentional. It's hilarious that I'm wearing this shirt. So heed the warning. If you're not into doing rebel canning recipes, don't do what I'm about to do. But if you are, do your own research. So it's a bit later in the evening, it's 6:30, and we're finally ready to, based on timing, we're ready to start doing the crock pot. It takes a really long time to render these onions and caramelize them to the point that we're ready to actually throw them into the jars. So instead of waking up super early and doing it in the evening, I decided to go ahead and get the process started this evening, and then just in the morning-ish, these should be ready to can. So we have 20 pounds of onions, and I think 12 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, 12 pounds fits in the crock pot. I did a video on this a while back. I'll link the video down below. And that one is gonna have much more information in it. This is just a Every Bit Counts challenge video, so I'm just showing you what I'm doing in some level of detail and some fun music. Like that's what the extent of this video is. It's not a canning how-to. The other one was much more detailed. So go check out that other one if you are actually interested in a little bit of replica. Basically, all we're gonna do is we're gonna cut up these onions with a mandolin slicer. We're gonna put them in the crock pot, add some butter, heat it up, and just let it slow cook all night long. So we're ready to take the next step with our bone broth, and basically all we're gonna do is take out all of this stuff from the pot here and put it into a separate bowl. I don't know if you can see that bowl. We're gonna leave this to cool and throw it in the fridge so that the fat can solidify and we can work with it in the morning. This we're gonna let cool, and I'll show you what to do in a second. So basically we're just gonna separate this out into bones and meat. Well, bones and then meat and like cartilage bits. But basically keeping the meat separate. You can wait till it cools, but I don't want to. It's late. So this we're gonna go ahead and let cool, and once it's cooled enough, we're gonna put it in a Ziploc bag, toss it in the fridge. You either use it for another project or for regular cooking. This I'm gonna also let cool, put it in a Ziploc, throw it in the freezer until I can find my missing bag of steak bones, and we can combine them and do another batch of like meat broth. Meat stock, beef broth, bone broth, that's what I'm looking for. That's pretty much it for the night. The onions are just gonna cook overnight. They're kind of slowly starting to reduce. They're not anything worth really showing you for, but I stirred them up once, and well, I tried to bring what was on the bottom to the top and to the bottom, top to the bottom, you know what I'm saying, but it didn't work very well. So probably before I go to bed, hopefully I'll be able to get one nice little stir to kind of just get everything incorporated. If not, no big deal. So we will pick this up in the morning. We'll pick all this up in the morning. If you guys are new around here, we just moved to our 30-acre homestead in southern Missouri. I'm bringing you along and sharing with you all of the things that we're doing to turn our home into a homestead. I like to do all kinds of videos like this on canning, freezing, dehydrating, and fermenting, as well as sharing with you how you can use that preserved food in your everyday cooking and how you can incorporate the preservation in your everyday life. If that sounds awesome to you, click this button here. This is what tells YouTube that you want to come back here. Up here is a video that Mr. Google Pants thinks that you're going to enjoy. If you got FOMO and you want to know what we did yesterday, click this button right here. And then up here is my Every Bit Counts challenge playlist. Make sure you check that one out for all the preservation since the beginning of August. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.